Let's take a look at what is happening in the markets, and we start off with the JSE that just closed, and it has been trading in red territory today, even though it did get an optimistic handover from the Asian markets, and of course that was expected as we saw the US and China reach an agreement in their two-day talks in London. Of course, we are still waiting for the final go-ahead from the presidents of the two nations. As we're seeing the all share at the moment dipping to more than 0.25%. We do have that coming from the financial 15 as it slid almost 1.5%. But on the other side of the spectrum, we have the resources 10 complex gaining more than 0.1%. The industrial 25 relatively flat, 0.03% above that flat line. Let's take a look at what is happening with the U.S. markets, and on that front in economic data, we did get the May consumer inflation printed did come in on an annual basis at 2.4%, in line with what markets had anticipated, slightly higher than the 2.3% that we saw in April. But on a monthly basis, we did see that rise coming in lower than market expectations. Those markets are pretty optimistic. S&P 500 up by 0.1%, tech-heavy Nasdaq with a gain of almost 0.25%, and the Dow ticking up by more than 0.33%. Let's check in on what is happening in the European markets, and on that front, we have seen investors digesting plans laid out by the UK government on its spending review. Mixed picture, the CAC 40 being the only bourse in red territory, declining almost 0.25%. FTSE 100 though climbing by 0.25%, and the DAX relatively flat, just 0.01% above the flat line. Let's check in on the currency scene and start off with how the rand is doing against some of the major currencies, remaining pretty stable. 17 rand 71 against the greenback, against the pound at 24 rand, against the euro at 20 rand 35. Let's check in on the other currency pairs, starting off with the euro dollar at 1.14, pound dollar at 1.35, and the yen just below 145 against the US dollar.